Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're working on a 2018 Honda Civic. We're going to be doing rear brake pads, rear rotors. We're going to go ahead and jump right in here. So this screw here that holds the rotor in, as you can see, I'm drilling it out. These likely are stuck. They get stuck all the time. Easiest way to get them is just to drill them out, 1/4 inch drill bit, go about 1/4 inch deep, and should be good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step in the process here. We're going to get these two caliper bolts out. There are 7mm Allen heads. Take those caps out. Wait for me to find my tools here. And I apologize for the camera. This is a new way of me recording these. I got a new attachment for my camera, so as you can see here, I'm showing you the 7mm Allen. So, and it's kind of blurry, can't see it. It's okay, 7mm. We're going to take it. We're going to get these two caliper bolts out. Start with the bottom one. Couple whacks. 1, 2. Yep, there we go. She's loose. So you can see this repair is pretty easy. I'm going to show you the hardest part about this repair is, or the most unfamiliar that you're probably going to be if you've done brakes before, is going to be removing this electronic parking brake module. We're going to get to that here in a few minutes after I get all these caliper bolts out. So we're going to get this, we got the bottom one loose, we're going to get the top one loose here. As you can see, killing my wrist, one wrench turn at a time. It's okay. Okay, got them loose. So now I'm going to probably grab my flathead screwdriver and I'm going to push these back a little bit because they do get kind of stuck right there. So I always push them back on this style caliper. I'm going to pop my clip out and I'm going to set that to the side because these pads didn't come with a new clip for whatever reason. So we're going to reuse that. Then I'm going to slowly work my caliper off as seen. Very simple, straightforward. You do want to make sure that the parking brake is off. You do not need the parking brake on. You do want the parking brake turned off during this process. And once you start, you get the caliper off. Do not go in the car, start the car, press the brake pedal, any of that. Just continue on about your process. If you do, for whatever reason, have to start the car and push the brake down, make sure that you put the caliper back in place. Otherwise, you will pop the piston out of the caliper and it will be a bad day. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to get this caliper bracket off. 17mm bolt, as you see here. I'm going to again look for my ratchet. There's my nice white legs. Find my ratchet. And where'd it go? Just had it. Oh, 17mm socket. Got it. Blurry, but ooh, you can barely see it. 1/7. Attach it to my handy dandy flex head ratchet. Probably going to see me grab my hammer here and give it a couple whacks. Oh, I got to go get the hammer. There's my band. Don't mind the mess. Alright, we're back. I got my hammer. Go ahead and give this sucker a couple whacks, get it loose. There you go. And again, I apologize about the view here. A couple times the camera pans down. You can't really see what I'm doing. This is a new method. I've got kind of a chest strap for my phone. I'm trying to record more videos, so just be patient. Do my best to walk you through it. As you can see, I got my two 17mm bolts loose here. We're going to go ahead and get them both out. You can see how bad this rotor is. This rotor's in pretty bad shape. You can see the grooving and the rust buildup at the top edge there. So we are thankfully replacing these rotors for this customer. And we should be getting this other 17mm bolt out any second. Okay, I'm going to get my bracket off here. Anytime. There we go. All right. So as you've seen before, I drilled that Phillips head screw out. I'm just going to give it a couple whacks with a hammer. Bam! You see it popped right out of there, broke the screw. These screws are pointless. Once this vehicle leaves the factory, these screws are only used to hold the rotor in place while this car is going down the assembly line at the factory. Once it leaves the factory, they have no purpose whatsoever. So drill them out, save yourself some time on the next brake job. Go ahead and get them out of there. All right, so next thing we need to do, we're going to get this electronic parking brake module off. You're going to see here I have a 5mm hex head. You're going to see two 5mm bolts right here, 5mm hex head bolts. I'm going to go ahead and get one loose and get the other one loose. Again, the parking brake is off. Do not have the parking brake on while you're doing this unless you want to destroy this actuator, and they're not cheap. So go ahead and get these two screws out. Again, these are 5mm hex bolts. One, and there's two. Any day now. Come on, come on, come on. Nickel holding up a dollar. All right, there's the second one. Got it out. Good. Okay, set them to the side. Now I'm going to pull this actuator off. You're just going to wiggle it a few times and pull up on it. It should pop right off there. I know the viewpoint isn't the best while I was doing that, but it's pretty simple. Just wiggle it, pull it off. There's a rubber, you'll see a rubber O-ring right around the outside of it. That is to keep moisture from getting in there. Next thing you need to do is take your 57th trip back to the van or the toolbox to get a 9mm socket. We're going to come back with that 9mm socket, and we're going to put it right on top of that spline drive right there, just like so. It's going to sit right on there. So there's a mechanism inside of the caliper that turns when you push the brake, electronic parking brake on. It puts pressure onto the outside of the caliper. We need to retract that back into factory position, and we're going to do that by this process that I'm showing you now. We're going to turn this spline drive all the way in. So in this case, it's kind of hard to tell whether I'm going clockwise or counterclockwise with the orientation of the caliper, but you get the gist of it. So you're going to turn that until it stops. It'll come to a complete stop. Hold on, let me pause this for a minute. So if you are going the wrong way, you'll know because the caliper piston will be pushing out, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want the caliper piston to be moving. You want to make sure that you're retracting that back into factory position. Okay, carry on. So now you're going to get your C-channel vice grips or C-clamp or brake tool or whatever it is you like to use to push the pistons back in on these calipers. I use C-channel vice grips, just how I've always done it. And you can see it's going to go in nice and easy. Shouldn't have any resistance, no problem. Should go right in just like a normal caliper. And there she goes. All right, she's in. So next thing we're going to do is I'm going to come back. I'm going to set my caliper. So again, yep, that's good. So I'm going to set my caliper there, put it back in place where I took the actuator off, grab the actuator, flip it back over into place. Again, sorry about the bad viewpoint. I'm still working out the kinks on this camera strap. Hopefully you can still get the gist of how to make this repair. I should straighten it out here in just a second. There we go. All right. So you're going to put the actuator back into place just like where it was before. It's up to you. You can take a little bit of grease or Vaseline and rub it on that O-ring right there to make this go in a little bit easier. This one was fine. It came off perfectly fine. It was there, there was no issues or anything. So that's kind of up to you. It's not a must, but so you can see my spline drive is not lining up perfectly with the spline inside the actuator, so I twisted it just a little bit so it would line up. And as you can see, that worked perfectly. She lined right back up, and you can see it seated in there nice. So I'm going to grab my two bolts and my 7mm Allen key, or I'm sorry, 5mm Allen key. And I'm going to go ahead and get these started by hand. I'm going to come back with my ratchet, and I'm going to tighten them down. Don't over tighten them. You will break the plastic on this actuator. They don't need to be super tight. They just need to be snug. Shouldn't have any problems with them backing off or anything like that. Okay, got them hand tight. I'll come back with my ratchet and I'm gonna snug them down. So of course, Honda, they want you to have the OBD2 scanner, which I do have in order to set this into service mode, but I realize that most people don't have $1,500 scanners sitting around at home. So this is the manual method you can use. You don't need anything special. You can see all the tools I've used, basic hand tools, and a little bit of know-how. You can get this done without taking it to the dealer and spending oodles and oodles of money. So next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and get my new rotor. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this puppy on here, and I'm sure some of you are gonna give me some comments about, well, why didn't you clean the grease off of it? Why didn't you go buy some brake cleaner and give them more of your money and clean this off? Well, because I don't believe that you really need to do that. The extra oil on the rotor acts as rust resistance up here. We are in the rust belt, so any bit that we can get to help repel any of that water or salt or grime that causes rust, I'm gonna take it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my 7mm bolt started. Start them by hand, like always. I always start everything by hand because you do not want to strip bolts out. So the easiest way to prevent stripping of bolts while putting them back in place is to start everything by hand. Lug nuts, bolts, doesn't matter. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these going. Okay, we got the top one's pretty snug. Getting the bottom one snug. I'm going to come back with a hammer here in a minute and I'm going to tighten them down. I'm sure there are torque specs out there. If you are OCD or anal about it and want to find torque spec, go right ahead. Um, I don't have them. I'm not going to do the job for you, but I'm sure you can find them online. So if you find them and you want to leave them in the comments, go right ahead. All right, so now we are going to go ahead and get our brake pads out. These are Duralast Gold brake pads. They are, in my opinion, the best, one of the better aftermarket brake pads on the market, without buying Brembos or something of that sort. Advanced Auto Parts brake pads are not worth the crap, in my opinion, so I don't buy them. We've had multiple problems with them. So here we go again. 59th trip back to the van. What am I getting? I'm getting my grease for my slide pins on my calipers. So I had a few comments on some videos of people complaining about there's no grease on the slide pins. Well, I do grease slide pins. Maybe it wasn't in the video that you watched, but I do grease them. One thing you will notice on these brake pads, so there is an inboard and an outboard brake pad. The inboard brake pad does have the metal clip on it, the little spring. The outboard does not. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and put some grease on my slide pins here. It's going to prevent them from seizing up inside that rubber boot. These are a little bit different than other slide pins on other vehicles. These are, it's just a different style of caliper. So I'm going to go ahead and got those in. I'm going to grab my 7mm Allen head. There it is. Got it. And I'm going to go ahead and get these started. So these are fairly easy to strip out. So just be sure that when you're getting these started, that because you are not able to start these by hand, you're not able to get your fingers in there. Just make sure that they are not stripping or going in sideways. You definitely want to make sure that these don't strip out because it will turn into a nightmare. They will break off inside there, and you don't want that to happen. I've been there, done that, and it's not much fun. So just take your time. Patience is a virtue. So I got the bottom one snug. Here we are. We're gonna get the top one snug. Okay, tight, good. I'm gonna get my caps that we pulled off earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I put them back on there because you don't want water getting inside there because that will cause the slide pins to seize up. So we want to make sure we put these caps back in on top of here. Perfect. Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our clip that I saved because for some reason my brake pads didn't come with a new one. Also going to take a little bit of grease and put it just on the ends of these because these do get stuck inside the caliper. It's kind of a weird design. So I always like to grease these up to keep them from seizing up inside there, you know, looking out for the next guy, whether that's me or somebody else. You know, it's just a few seconds to save a little bit of headache down the road. And that's it. The back is done. So once you get this all together, you're going to get your wheel on, tighten your lug nuts. You're going to go in. So I just wanted to show you this side. I'm going to go in. I'm going to start the car, pump up the brake pedal. I'm going to test the electronic parking brake, turning it off and turning it on several times. Should work, no problem, no lights, no nothing. This repair went nice and smooth, as they always do. I use this method all the time. It's very